No DQ Galaxy, we are live with a recap of Friday Night Smackdown for September 20th, 2024. We are on the road to WWE Bad Blood. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. I very much appreciate your viewership and support. Now, let's get to the Smackdown recap. We had footage shown from last week's show with Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns forming a tag team to face Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu at Bad Blood. We had a little preview of Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns having a face-off at Georgia Tech. More on that in just a little bit. We saw the Bloodline going through security backstage. Jacob Fatu ended up beating up a bunch of the security guards because he doesn't like to be patted down. We had our first match of the evening, which was LA Knight, defending the United States Championship against Andrade. They had a handshake, show of sportsmanship in the beginning. It was a back and forth competitive match. Crowd was into it. Really good match with these two. They went for each other's finishers early on. Andrade slipped to the outside, and then after the commercial break, Andrade got in some offense. Then they ended up on the apron. LA Knight was sent into the ring post. Andrade then climbed up to the top rope and delivered a moonsault to the outside onto Knight. After the break, LA Knight started to fight back. He did the LA Knight top rope elbow drop, went for the BFT, but Andrade avoided it, hit a brutal-looking spinning back elbow, but LA Knight was able to kick out. The crowd was chanting, "This is awesome." They were enjoying the match. Now, towards the end, LA Knight tried to jump up to the top rope, but he slipped not once, but twice. And Andrade improvised. He went for a missile drop kick. LA Knight moved out of the way. And then LA Knight hit the BFT to pick up the victory. After the match, we had an awkward moment where Andrade went for another handshake. LA Knight went for a fist bump. And Andrade insisted on a handshake. So he was like trying to grab LA Knight's hand for a handshake, and LA Knight was resisting, but finally did it. It was very odd to me. I'm not sure what that was about, but it was a very good match to kick off the show. Now, backstage, Carmelo mocked Andrade for losing, and then a fight broke out between the two of them. And guess what? The feud is on. It continues. Next week, they are having a sixth match. It is, in fact, going to be a best-of-7 series with these two. They're going to end up as a tag team, right? Like, where's this going? But yeah, the feud continues next week. Maybe Carmelo wins, and then Carmelo faces LA Knight, and then loses, and then faces Andrade again. This is getting a bit silly at this point, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they always have a great match, but come on now. It did kind of feel like a real fight. I will give them that. Shout out to Jordan1728, who sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It says, I grew up in Stockton, California. Tonight's SmackDown was in Sacramento, and came to the show. I've seen so many people enjoying the show. I think it's just not for me. It was so boring, in my opinion. Sucks for me. Well, I'm sorry to hear that you didn't enjoy the show. I did not think it was the best SmackDown by any means, but I thought it was a solid show. But I would say that if you did not enjoy SmackDown, then yeah, WWE is probably not for you, because I think that this episode of SmackDown was a good representation of what the current WWE product is like. It's not WWE at its best, but it's certainly not WWE at its worst. It was a fairly standard WWE show. So if you did not get enjoyment out of it, then I would say it's probably not for you. But then again, no Randy Orton on the show, no Roman Reigns on the show. We'll talk more about my overall thoughts in just a little bit, but thank you again for the super chat. Hopefully you're more entertained by this than you were the Smackdown show. We had the Georgia Tech segment, which was very interesting to me. I give WWE credit for doing something different outside of the box, which is what this was. They appeared in the Georgia Tech football field, and it was very, very cinematic. You had dramatic music in the background, and I almost thought it was a bit too over the top, but a lot of people seemed to like the segment. It really wasn't my cup of tea, but people liked it, so I guess it was a success. If it got people more interested in Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, then it served its purpose. So Roman Reigns said that Georgia Tech was his field, his stadium, his city, and he asked what Cody has done. Cody responded by talking about center stage, the Omni, and said that multiple generations of his family bled for the city. He said that it might be Roman Reigns' field, but it's his home. And Roman Reigns responded by saying that Cody has everything to lose. Roman Reigns has nothing to lose. Everything's been taken from him by the Bloodline. And Cody wanted Roman Reigns to promise that Reigns will have his back at Bad Blood, so he can have Roman Reigns' back as well. And Reigns did make that promise. He gave his word, but then said once it's all done, he's taken back what is his. And then Cody said it's not Reigns' to take back. Reigns said that Cody was in his way. Roman Reigns was trying to leave, but he made it clear that not just in the way right there, but in the way in his life. And then he finally walked off. I am curious if we might get this rematch before Survivor Series. Could we see it at Crown Jewel or whatever the Saudi Arabia show is in November, the blow-off match? Will that happen? I don't know. I am curious now what's going to happen. I mean, it did build more intrigue between these two. And like I said, I have mixed feelings about the segment. I thought it was maybe too over the top with the dramatic music and everything. But I appreciate WWE doing something different. I do feel bad for the fans that they had to sit and watch this on the big screen. You know, they could have done this segment in the arena. But at the same time, like I said, it was something different, and it ties into Bad Blood. It was in Atlanta, and it builds up both of their histories in the city. In that sense, I do think it was effective, even if it wasn't my favorite type of segment. And in response to this, Crown Jewel's not a low-level show. Any Saudi Arabia show, you have to keep in mind, WWE is being paid a massive amount of money for those Crown Jewel shows. Like, those shows are bigger than WrestleMania. WWE makes a boatload of money out of those Saudi Arabia shows. They're not low-level shows. As far as WWE's bottom line goes, those shows are very important. So anything can happen. I don't know if they're going to have that match take place at Crown Jewel. I'm just wondering, because we all assume War Games is going to be Bloodline versus Bloodline, but what do they do at Crown Jewel? Like, what's going to be the big match for that? So I am curious about that. And shout out to Jordan1728 who sent in another $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, weird, I enjoy Raw at times. Last night watched the 2001 SmackDown episode, The Rock and Kurt Angle with Eric Bischoff recruiting, and it held up amazing. Arena enjoyed. Am I weird? I mean, sometimes the show just might not be your cup of tea for whatever reason. I mean, I've definitely gone to live events over the years and I wasn't blown away by it, but then I go home and watch it and I like it better. You're definitely going to have a bit of a different experience watching it live versus watching it in person. And sometimes it can be for the better. Sometimes it can be for the worse. You might have a different perspective depending on whether you're there live or whether you're there in person or at home, watching it at home with the commentary and the full production. So it is definitely a different experience. I honestly prefer the shows at home at this point. As much fun as it was to go to SummerSlam in 2023 at Ford Field, I prefer. I mean, part of it's because I work at home and cover the shows and everything. It's a lot easier work-wise to be at home than at the arena, but I like having the commentary. I like the production of the show. WWE has excellent TV production. And I actually think it's a better experience now watching in high definition at home. But that's just me. Everybody's got their own opinion and own taste. So, I mean, if you weren't a fan of attending the SmackDown show, I mean, there's definitely nothing wrong with that. You know, sometimes people might not enjoy it as much as others. Some people might prefer watching at home. Some people might enjoy Raw. There might be certain wrestlers you like more. There can be a lot of factors with that. Back to SmackDown, we had Kevin Owens. He was interviewed. He was asked about Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes teaming up, but he had no comment. More on that in just a few. Naomi and Bayley had a little pre-match discussion, and then that set up their Tornado tag team match going up against the women's champion, Nia Jax, and Miss Money in the Bank, Tiffany Stratton. Naomi and Bayley were working well together, and this match was what you would expect, where they were on the same page, but then when it was time to go for a cover, they started to have miscommunication, and the match went back and forth a bit. Nia and Tiffany took control for a while. They did the blockbuster Samoan drop combo. Bayley kicked out of that. Then they brawled on the outside. They got back in the ring. Bayley went for a cover. And guess what? Naomi pulled her off. They were having issues, but they did manage to regroup. Tiffany accidentally hit Nia with a swanton. Naomi had moved out of the way. And then Bayley and Naomi hit the 1D to Tiffany. She was sent out of the ring. And then Naomi and Bayley pinned Nia Jax at the same time. But not a triple threat, at least as of now, because backstage, Nick Aldis, the general manager, said that there can only be one challenger. And next week, there's going to be a singles match between Naomi and Bayley, with the winner facing Nia Jax at the pay-per-view. Why couldn't they just do this in the first place? It almost felt like this whole match was just a waste of time. Oh, well, now we're doing another match next week. So really, you didn't need to watch this match at all. I don't know. I felt kind of underwhelmed by this whole process. I was almost wanting to see Bayley lose this just to not have a Nia Jax match, even though she has improved and she's gotten better since returning. I almost didn't even want to see a Nia Jax match for the pay-per-view, and I feel like Bayley could have a fresh start over on Monday Night Raw. I kind of wanted to see Bayley lose this and go over to Raw. they're doing the match for next week, so they're dragging it out. And it basically rendered this tag match worthless. They hyped it up, high stakes match, but really it's just setting up another match for next week. And who knows, it might still end up being a triple threat after next week. So whatever. I feel kind of screwed over. Jordan, another shout out to Jordan who sent in $2. Thank you for the super chats. I appreciate it. Says, I loved the San Francisco AEW a few years back. Too old for WWE product. I mean, it could just be you want an alternative to WWE. AEW shows, we do criticize them, but you're going to get some high quality wrestling at the AEW shows. Maybe that's just your cup of tea, that you prefer AEW's style over WWE. Like you want the high quality wrestling. And with WWE, I mean, there were definitely good matches on the show, but I don't think at the level of your top tier AEW matches that we often see on Dynamite or Collision or Rampage. So it's just a matter of your own preference. And you know what? You might go to another WWE event down the line and you might really like it. It might just depend on the wrestlers. And there's a lot of factors, like I said. And no problem. I appreciate the comments here. Definitely something interesting to talk about and discuss. Says, sorry for so many questions. WWF WCW 32-year-old. Wow, that's crazy that you go back that far. I really do appreciate it, Jordan. Thank you for tuning in. Much love to you. How would you feel about a 3-hour show if you had to go to SmackDown and sit through a 3-hour show? Just curious about that. And, sometimes it can depend on the wrestlers on the show. There might be certain wrestlers you like more than others. Moving on here, we had Chelsea Green, a video promo talking about trash and dumpsters, hyping up her dumpster match with Michin. I believe they said it was in 2 weeks and not next week. Michael Cole was getting all animated about this. He was hyped up for this dumpster match. I'm glad somebody is. Yeah, dumpster match. I mean, I suppose it'll be entertaining, but hey, Jordan, at least you didn't have to witness the dumpster match on this SmackDown. It could have been worse, although maybe you would have been entertained by it. Who knows? We had the Bloodline ambushing DIY backstage. It was supposed to be, I completely skipped over Kevin Owens. So I'm going to have to go back here. I actually skipped over a couple of things. I messed up pretty badly here. We're live, pal. So I have to go back, rewind. This was back around the end of the first hour. We had Giovanni Vinci versus Apollo Crews in a rematch from 2 weeks ago. Vinci beat the crap out of Apollo Crews, targeted the leg, but then guess what? Out of nowhere, Apollo Crews rolled him up and got the win. Vinci attacked him afterwards. This was stupid. I mean, this was a waste of time. Vinci isn't getting over. Apollo isn't getting over. What is the point of this? Apollo is so far gone, and Vinci has no credibility whatsoever. He's just getting beat. He beats the guy up afterwards. So what? I mean, this is like Vince McMahon booking. This was awful. You might as well just cut your losses with both of these guys at this point. Like, it didn't do anything to elevate either guy. This was actually bad. I will say that. I've been pretty positive about WWE as of late, but this is a thumbs down for me, this whole segment. We had Kevin Owens come into the ring for a promo. He was about to give his thoughts on Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, but then the Bloodline interrupted. Tama Tonga was making some goofy noises, and then they were going to beat up Kevin Owens. It was 3-on-1. Owens tried to fight them off, And DIY ran down Nick Aldis, and the officials came out there and set up a tag team match for the main event. So there you go. Teddy Long special. Now, we get to the main event stuff. Bloodline ended up ambushing DIY backstage, and Kevin Owens was ready to fight the Bloodline 3-on-1, but then the Street Profits showed up. So what was the point of this? I guess to get both teams on the show. We'll have DIY make an appearance, but they get beat up, and then Street Profits take their place. Okay, whatever. So it was a 6-man, but with Street Profits in the place of DIY. And Fatu got the upper hand. He did this moonsault to Dawkins. Eventually, after being beaten down for a while, Dawkins was able to tag out to Montez Ford. Ford did some of his flashy moves. Then Kevin Owens tagged in. And then Owens hit a stunner, but was pulled out of the ring. Things had broken down. And even though this never happens in either promotion, the referee finally had enough. He decided to throw the match out because it was too chaotic. And you know what? It actually makes sense when you think about it in these tag matches where everybody's fighting and nobody's making tags. But the problem is that every week we see it in WWE, we see it in AEW. All these guys are out there. There's no order, and the referee never calls for a DQ. So either they're going to have to start doing that every week, or this was just a cheap finish to not have a decisive winner. Either way, we had the post-match beatdown. The Bloodline got the upper hand. And after what seemed like an eternity, Cody Rhodes finally shows up to make the save. He took his sweet-ass time to make the save. What's up with these baby faces? Like Kevin Owens, not Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes, Darby Allin. Like, these guys take so long to come out there and help. Like, are they taking a shit backstage? And then they're like, oh my God, I got to go out there and help my friends. Cody Rhodes could have come out there way sooner, but he eventually did show up, and he had a steel chair. He gave a cutter to Fatu, and the Bloodline fled the scene. No Solo Sikoa on this show. And they did the deal that they did a couple of weeks ago before Bash in Berlin, where Kevin Owens had the steel chair, and Cody Rhodes was looking towards the Bloodline. Owens was standing behind him with the chair, and they were once again teasing that Owens was going to hit Cody, but then Cody turned around. Owens dropped the chair. Cody went for a handshake. Owens shook his hand. They hugged each other, and that was the end of the show. I guess the Kevin Owens heel turn is coming. We'll have to see. Maybe the Roman Reigns match is not happening at Crown Jewel. Maybe Kevin Owens costs them the match at Bad Blood and officially goes heel. I mean, that's certainly a possibility. Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Building Nexus. I appreciate it. Says, is Bad Blood a good place for Jimmy to come back? I would say whenever Jimmy's ready, and a lot of people are wondering what's going on with him. Is he all right? Is he healthy? If he's healthy and ready to go, then yes. Unless they want to do the angle with Kevin Owens to have Roman Reigns back on his own again. Because Cody really needs to get out of the storyline. If they're going to do Bloodline versus Bloodline at Survivor Series, I think that they need to get Cody out of it. So maybe this would be the time for the Owens turn. Owens comes out there. You think he's helping Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, but instead he turns against Cody. And Roman Reigns and Cody take the loss. And then Cody turns his attention to Owens. And then Roman's by himself again against the Bloodline. And bam, that's when Jimmy Uso comes back. And then maybe Jey Uso and Sami Zayn come over to help out. But yeah, keep in mind that we still have the Crown Jewel show or whatever it's called. I always forget which show it's called in November. I think it's Crown Jewel, but yeah, whatever. The Saudi Arabia show. So all in all, I did think SmackDown was a good show, but I don't think it was a top tier SmackDown by any means. It was fairly standard. So I would probably go with the B- for it. I had mixed feelings about the Roman Reigns segment, but at least they did something to build up bad blood. And we did have some good wrestling on the show. Wasn't a fan of the DQ. I guess not a DQ, just the match being thrown out at the end. But they did do a good job with the Kevin Owens tease. So yeah, it was a bit of a mixed bag for me, but overall, pretty solid SmackDown. I think a B- is fair. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. I very much appreciate your continued viewership and support. If you did like the video, please give it a thumbs up on the No DQ YouTube channel. Next live stream will be Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. No DQ review. Check that out. We'll be talking about everything that's been going on in the world of wrestling. Stay tuned for that. Check out NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.